Ireland's history is scarred by colonisation, famine, and the silencing of its tongue. Yet across this island, people fought to keep their heritage alive. On the Great Blasket Island, against the roar of the Atlantic, stories were told and songs were sung, carrying the spirit of survival.
We're leaving the mainland behind, heading to a place once described as the edge of Europe, the Great Blasket Island. It's rugged, uninhabited, but not forgotten. For generations, the island has been tied to storytelling, survival, and now, revival. The Great Blasket Island was once home to a tight-knit Irish-speaking community, but with no hot water or electricity here, life was tough, but culture thrived.
I mean, when on the island, they had no radio, they had no television, they had no. So the only entertainment they had was each other. So in the form of stories, the oral transmission of stories, music, song, and dance were a very big part of that society, and it was an extremely important part of that society.
In 1953, the Irish government deemed the island too dangerous to live on. The residents were evacuated. But now, people are returning. Heritage seekers, caretakers, artists. I'm staying in one of the revived cottages, a place once left to ruin, now part of a cultural reawakening. From this isolated place came some of the greatest 20th century Gaelic literature. Names like Peig and Tomás told stories not to publish, but to preserve.
The books are only one thing about Peig. Peig was an extraordinary woman, powerful woman, highly, highly able and intelligent and articulate. She was, and this is becoming recognised, rather than the author of those two books, she was one of Europe's foremost storytellers in folklore terms. The largest collection of stories in the Irish National Folklore Collection.
But beyond the Blasket, Ireland itself was under pressure. Centuries of British colonisation had imposed laws that restricted the Irish language and banned cultural practices. Erasing the language meant erasing memory, forcing communities to hold on to stories in other ways. Oral tradition became more than entertainment. It became an act of resistance.
There was a lot of rules put in trying to kind of stop Irish culture from being continued. So, for example, lots of Gaelic sports were banned for periods. Hurling, publishing was another thing which became very difficult. So the main printer in Ireland was commissioned by the Crown, and kind of in 1570s, they were actually publishing things in Irish, but it was the Protestant prayer book, because the Royal Crown was willing to speak Irish if it promoted the religious kind of targets. And what happens is that you have this, because it is harder to get things printed, you have a much stronger focus on a bit more of an oral tradition. And additionally, with an oral tradition, in these areas where they could kind of get away with meetings and society stuff, you often didn't want to have kind of a paper trail lead back to you. So oral tradition becomes very important. It's a way to remember kind of nationalists of the past, kind of previous attempts for liberation, kind of the heroes and the martyrs from those events become remembered in songs which are passed down, but they're not remembered in kind of statues or anything permanent that could be destroyed. So the fact that oral traditions are intangible means that they could therefore continue where other kind of remembrances couldn't.
Taking away a language was deliberate. It was a tool to silence people, to strip them of power and stop them telling their own story. The Irish language holds ideas that cannot be translated into English, but fragments of thought and culture have survived, despite attempts to erase them.
In this place, the silence says a lot. But listen closely to the seals, the stones, the sea, and you'll still hear the stories. When language lives on in a place, it's never truly gone.